So I'd like to introduce Bijon in short. Bijon is CEO of a company called Light Castle Partner. It's a data consultancy or business consultancy company. Their expertise is in data, big data or data management, and they actually take data from the companies, and a lot of companies have data but they don't know what to do with those. So what they do, they take the data and represent it in such a way that companies know where to focus and where not to. So they are a very young and bunch of business graduates from one of the best business organization, business university in Bangladesh, IBA, and they are doing pretty good. So we requested them to look into our issues and give some insight into this, that where we are now and how we can take it forward. Because the people in basis, we are very good at business and how to grow our business, but we are not necessarily the data expert. So we like to thank him and his company for doing this, and also like to invite Bijon to try to give us some insight how to solve this kind of issue, so that these discrepancies are solved and we can all stand in one position and say this is our figures. Bijon.
Thank you, Shahar Bhai, for the very humble introduction, and good afternoon to everyone here. So as Rashid Bhai was saying, that the ICT sector is under the radar. It's fast growth. It goes with our digital Bangladesh goal, and it's there. But as said, that there's a lot of different entities have mentioned different values of export figure. I've just taken in two figures, as you can see, 250 million, and then industry experts often, and these are often quoted in different events, different newspapers, that the size is actually 700 million. And this is a huge barrier to a planned growth, because when you don't know what is the actual size of the industry is, how do you know which segments to grow, where to focus, which will be your star product and which will be your cash cow? So just to summarize that, why the estimation problems has been there, as mentioned, and I'll be reiterating this a bit, that there are unregistered companies there. Unofficial revenues, remittance from unofficial channels is a big thing in Bangladesh as well. A lot of companies mention offshore accounts. These are also very true for captive centers who have local offices here where they just remit the operating expenditures while keeping a lot of revenues in captive centers outside Bangladesh offshore accounts. And then again, when you were going to collect the data, there is a lot of different methodologies has been used over the years. So one particular firm can work in a particular area, they use one particular type of methodology, and the next research firm who does that doesn't build on that. Each institution has different methodologies, and that also results in an estimation problem. What is the size of the industry? And this becomes difficult. Because how do you project a revenue 2021? If it's 700 million, it means we have achieved the goal. But if it's not that, are we there? For that purpose, we have decided that the solution would be that we need to track revenue and set goals. And that can also be done if we can do a sustained anonymous research. But the research is not just a one-time activity, but it's a time series activity. You need to use the same methodology over a period of time, and doing anonymous research with representative sample of the IT industry over a period to achieve these certain figures. So this is where we came up with this particular model, which is called a SMART. So you have to go a segmented approach where you segment the market into different verticals. Like you have, as mentioned by Rashid, you have IT, you have ITES, you break it down further into different parts like application processor, horizontal outsourcing, vertical outsourcing. Then you have to look for clusters. So how do you cluster this? Because all of the market is not in one particular geography. This can be a lot of concentration in Dhaka, but there will be concentration in other areas of Bangladesh as well. So you have to do geographical clustering, then industry-wise clustering as well. And what percentage is actually horizontal process outsourcing? What percent is actually vertical process outsourcing? Then this is very important because there's a lot of confidence issues by entrepreneurs do not want to disclose their revenue figures for obvious reasons in Bangladesh. So this has to be anonymous, and this is very important that whenever this is tagged to a particular individual, particular company, everyone has a kind of a barrier. I don't want to share my figures. So this has to be anonymous. And then you have to track this revenue tracker over time. So this is just not a one-time exercise, 1 month exercise that you do and then you let it go. This is a continuous exercise that you take on a periodic basis, maybe every year, where you update your figures. So this is how the SMART system is going to work. So first of all, you have a periodic revenue reporting. You have IT companies, you have IT, ITS associations, like bases and other associations in the country, and then you have registered freelancers. You bring them under this revenue reporting portal where they periodically report their revenue, and then whenever they report the revenue, it becomes data anonymous. Means nobody knows that which particular company has reported which particular revenue on a single data file. So what the firm can do, they can see the data at an aggregate level or at an industry level, but they will not be allowed, the data will be masked so that individual company data will not be available to researchers or any association or any institutional body going forward. So you can only see the data on an aggregate form. And then you also need to triangulate the data. As I say, that often when you have a single source data, it becomes problematic because suppose you know the CXO of a company, it's the chief strategy officer. He might report a certain figure, the CEO might report a different figure altogether as well. Maybe the CFO has another figure in mind. So if you just have a single source and figure by what the research firms usually do, they just go to the person they have the best linkage with and try to derive the information from them. But it has to be triangulated. For best research result, you at least have 2 to 3 individuals, one from that one particular company, to get the same data so you can identify any variance in the data. And from that, if you can have the data, you can have proper planning. And I don't think if you have the planning, if you know which sectors are doing well, why do we need to put our monies in USD 1 billion is going to be that big a problem. So just to get a brief view, what a multi-cluster sampling process looks like, it means that you identify all the categories in the life cycle in terms of value, and you divide them into IT and ITS services. You can see I've divided a lot of the services into IT, ITS, and which life cycle of the product this is now. And then you try to derive large clusters using this segmentation. So you have vertical process outsourcing, knowledge process, horizontal process outsourcing, automation, engineering, application. Based on this, once you have all the clusters, you need to define clusters stratified on the sample. So you might decide that vertical process outsourcing consists of this percentage of the sampling frame. So you have to take maybe 20% from these companies. And if you study geographically, you study them according to the size of the company as well. You might decide that 20% of my sample has to be companies who have a revenue of more than $3 million. And this percentage of my sample has to be companies who has a revenue between less than $500,000. So you have revenue-wise segmentation, geography-wise segmentation, and different cluster-wise segmentation as well. And then these are fed into the smart system where you can triangulate the data and you can get accurate estimates. So just having a snapshot, you have to first define the cluster segments, then you do the random sampling, then you administer the questionnaire system through the system, then you anonymize the data so that no individual company's data goes through, all the data report anonymous, then you do the data triangulation, multiple sources for the same level of data, and lastly you do proper reporting using visualization for policy formation. And I will invite Sharbhai to take over from here and just to give a picture where we go from our industry here to the next step.